Cliff Kingsbury. Come on down. Let's throw every hat in the ring today. Hoge and Halas. The Bears are playing the Packers. The season's almost over. There's a ton to do on the CHGO Bears Podcast, which starts right now. Coming at you live on this beautiful, fresh, feels like a Monday, but it's really a sunny side Thursday. This is the CHGO Bears Podcast. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. 3. Did I say 3? Yes, I did. Enter that promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day. Only for 21 and older or Illinois medical card holders. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on this Sunnyside Thursday. Good to see you, Gregory. Sweet outfit by you today.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
It better be a Happy New Year because 2024 sucked.
Well, actually, it was great. I had a phenomenal time. It's just the Bears didn't win a lot of football games, which actually brings me to, I just think it's important when you start a new year to identify where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And me and you are sitting here staring.
I'm in
at
hell.
Yes, it's a tough look for both of us. You look like you have not brushed your teeth for at least 5 days, but you have but showered recently. The Chicago Bears enter the final week of the 2024 season, having lost 10 games in a row, tying for the most in one season in franchise history. I know that everybody knows that.
Any games in 2025.
Yeah, well, but to end the 2024 season.
Yes.
I just think we always have to pause and say that again. They've lost 10 games in a row to tie the most in the franchise's pathetic history, which happened 2 years ago. That's where we are. And by the way, they're playing the Packers on Sunday. Do you know how many losses in a row they've had to the Packers?
That would be 11.
11. Do you know what 10 plus 11 is?
21.
That's right.
Sammy Sosa.
Which, that just ties into Sunnyside. And you got to be 21 or older, Illinois medical card holder. 21, Sammy, there you go.
There it is.
Also where we are. The quarterback.
Yes, sir.
Caleb.
Yes, sir.
67 sacks. 67. Wow. The most by a Bears quarterback in the history of Bears quarterbacks in a season.
Yep. And he took accountability for it.
He did. We'll get to that in a second. But, again, 10 losses in a row, 11 to your rival. The most sacks in the history of the quarterback in the franchise's history, with the year that you were like, let's create this soft landing spot for Caleb. Let's go get him all the weapons and the protection and the Coleman Sheltons and the Keenan Allen. The most sacks in the history of the franchise. More than Cuddy ever took.
Yep.
More than more than Mitch, more than I could, give me bad, terrible, can't move quarterback who was a quarterback for the Bears. Eric Kramer, not bad with Eric, Dave Craig, whatever, the most ever.
Yeah,
not it's good. Really, it's just, I just don't think, I think these stats just wash over us at times, and we don't sort of put the history of the whole thing together.
Right.
And we'll talk Pro Bowls later, but, the Pro Bowls came out today. Pro Bowlers came out. We got one.
Yep.
Shout out Jaylon Johnson.
We got one.
Who,
by the way, was not drafted by Ryan Poles.
Yeah. Correct. That's a good point. But he did get an extension from Ryan Poles.
Yes, he did.
But as we take a little peek here as to how to move this forward, because, listen, we've all been down before, been kicked, rolled around. Johnny Wan is trying to kick Chicago media to start the show here, calling us the worst. I think he's just talking about me and you, but maybe he's including the rest of us as well.
About you.
Yeah, it's probably just about me. It's not how many times you get knocked down in life, Gregory. Words to 2025. It's how quickly you get back up.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have anything for you for 2025 that you're leaning into? That I personally have something for myself that I'm going to go for, and I think the Bears should go for it too.
A New Year's resolution is what you're asking me?
Well, it's not even a resolution. It's just like a mantra that you're leaning into. Like, I want to put it less than a resolution because those kind of get lost in the wash.
Right.
Something that's like important to you on your heart as you start this new year.
Are we talking about the Bears or in life?
We're talking about anything you want to talk about.
Well, since it's a Bears show,
yeah.
I mean, I would say I have two things that I'm going to hold true to this offseason.
Yep.
There may be some that'll get mad at me on this program as the resident meatball, but no more hype. This offseason, we are eliminating the hype.
Show me. Grounded Braggs?
Show me. Whoever they hire at head coach, I'm not going to hate on it. I'll be optimistic and hopeful for the best. But I'm not going to oversell it. I'm not going to write checks. I'm going to let the Bears cash them. No more hype, less talk, and let's see the results play out for themselves. Number one. Number two, this is a tough one for me. It's going to be really hard to get through the Friday 120 clubs this way. But I am banning the Green Bay sucks chant.
Wow.
Until further notice. Maybe forever. Probably forever. If the Bears are going to embarrass themselves every week, every year, save their most embarrassing efforts for the primetime stage, I'm not going to help them in this embarrassing perception by chanting Green Bay sucks as we walk through the tunnels of the Southgate or when I'm in the bleachers in left field in Wrigley Field this summer. I'm done.
It's a big move for you.
I'm done.
Now, I feel like we got to go down a little road here. What was the genesis of this? Why is this happening?
Well, because Green Bay doesn't suck. We suck.
But they haven't sucked.
And it has gotten harder and harder to chant that. And it's always this tradition. We understand it's tongue-in-cheek, and sports are supposed to be fun. But who is having fun anymore? Is this fun? This isn't fun. This sucks. Green Bay doesn't suck. Our lives as Bears fans suck. And it's all come to a head where the chants through the tunnels of the last home game were not Green Bay sucks. It was sell the team. Sell the team.
So what you're saying is until we don't suck, and who knows when that will be, you won't say that Green Bay sucks.
Focus on ourselves.
Yes.
And if I want the team to right some wrongs, I need to look inward. I need to look in the mirror at what I can do better to change the mindset here going forward. So as fans, we have little control of what's going to happen going forward, but Caleb needs to control what he can control under center, and I need to control what I can control as a fan. Okay. So it's starting with no more hype. Let's see the results, and no more Green Bay sucks chance.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay.
How long do you think you're actually going to be able to last doing that?
I'm gonna hold through all the way till the season starts, and if I don't, you can shock me with a cattle prod.
They go up 10-0 on Sunday.
I was just about to say this. Yeah. They went 40-0. Nope. You're not going to say it?
Nope.
I don't believe you.
If we beat them on Sunday, we're just gonna straight face, keep our head held high. We're not gonna smack talk because this is an embarrassment of a season.
I don't think that you'll have to worry about that on Sunday, so don't. You'll be okay. Well, okay, go on. Let's drop. No more Green Bay sucks. Don't look at the chat right now. Hey,
I don't care.
Okay.
You leave, you sellout taxi. Nobody even takes a taxi anymore.
I do. Titanium. I ride taxi.
Take the train.
I do that too. It was an interesting ride today. All right. Well, speaking of Caleb and us not sucking and living in reality is how I'm kind of digesting your 2025 thing. By the way, mine is consistency. I'm going for consistency this year. Not sexy, not flash, not dash, not the big time overhead on the tennis court, the bomb on the hoop court. Consistency, daily, day in, day out, making myself feel good by being consistent. I think consistency will make me feel better than anything else in life. So I'm going for consistency. So I will be proud of myself moving forward, Carm, which will make me just the most best podcaster that I can hopefully be for you guys. So that's the plan. All right. Speaking of moving it forward, I just thought Caleb deserves a gold star yesterday. And, I mean, it's a real tough spot to be in. Like, hey, how come, this year the offensive line was so bad, how could you be good? He's not going to you can't throw him under the bus. But I thought what he did yesterday, quote, I've taken sacks, yes, and, a good amount has been on me. Whether it's small things or getting the ball out of my hands or just maybe dirting it. Maybe not trying to find the perfect route, the perfect play, all of that for that situation. Maybe it's just throwing it out of bounds, dirting it, finding the check down faster. And then the other one is just not trying to make plays all the time and understanding that. And he could have gone even further. Like, I need to grasp the playbook more. I need to understand what I'm looking at. But at least he's talking about how it's on him. Next gen stats. 51 of Caleb Williams' 67 sacks have come on dropbacks of longer than 4 seconds. 51 of the 67. That ain't great. He's right. He's calling it out correctly. And by the way, that's okay. You're a rookie quarterback. You're learning how to play in the league. You haven't had a great situation. You had an offensive coordinator fired 9 games in. You had a coach who didn't know how to guard the sidelines and wasn't, that was who you were leaning on. Matt Eber was, I'm going to be more involved with the quarterback this year. Who thought that was a good idea?
Right.
So, I mean, there was a lot of things that were going against him. And by the way, the offensive line wasn't great. But I do think it's important just to look at these numbers and realize exactly what all has actually been happening here. 51 of the 67 have come on dropbacks longer than 4 seconds. The next closest is 38. It's not even close. So this is a major, major off-season into next season undertaking to get better at this. So I think when to the whole Bears point, I'm sorry, Bears, to the whole Bears point of like their coaching search is focused on finding someone who will get the quarterback. That is correct. This is correct. You need the right coach to take a super talented guy and mold him into what he can be, which hopefully is a lot.
Well, and this is where, like, at the start of the year, we had the conversation of how much responsibility he had at the line of scrimmage, and was that a good thing or a bad thing while he took 7 or 8 sacks against the Houston Texans on, Sunday Night Football. And the selling point for some fans was, well, no, this is a good thing because he's playing in an advanced offense where he's being asked to do things that only experienced quarterbacks do. And he's going to learn through the trials and tribulations, while Jaden Daniels plays in a more simplistic offense where it only requires him to have one field reads and they run the ball well and things of that nature. And I always kind of push back like, no, we need to try to find consistency on offense, and they need to start simplifying things to try to get some success and some consistency. And that doesn't mean that he's a limited quarterback, but you have to start. You can't skip steps. And so now you hear Thomas Brown say he has very little opportunity to change the call at the line of scrimmage since he's become the interim head coach.
Right.
And so that, to me, is the proper way of handling a rookie quarterback. Slow drip your way up to the second and third level of becoming a quarterback in this league. I mentioned the stat here on the post-game show last, a few days ago. Pressure to sack ratio. Caleb is the second worst in the league. And so that means, like against the Niners, for instance, he had 9 pressures and 7 sacks on those 9 pressures. So that all quarterbacks get pressured. The league average is 15%. He's sitting at 31%. The best quarterbacks in the league are at 9% of a pressure to sack ratio. And Gary, our guy Gary, shared this stat with me from Brett Coleman, saying the 3 worst offensive lines in the NFL in terms of pressure rate allowed are the Seahawks, Patriots, and Titans. You'd probably expect all of them to be up there, says Brett. But do you know who the 4th and 5th worst are for pressure rate in the NFL? Minnesota and Detroit. Well, guess what? I guarantee their sack rate, their pressure rate is high, but their sack rate isn't going to be as high because you have veteran quarterbacks there that know how to handle all teams. That's proof of you can have a great offensive line. You're still going to take pressures, and then it's incumbent on the quarterback of how he handles those pressures without taking sacks.
Adam Hoge coming up from Halas Hall. We'll continue the QB conversation. We're going to dive over to Cliff Kingsbury, who was asked yesterday about his desires to be back as a head coach. The answer to that is yes, not to do a spoiler. So some interesting stuff there that we'll get to. But first, shout out to our friends at Sunnyside, your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. The one-stop shop for all your cannabis needs. Sunnyside, expertly curated menu. There's over 100 strains to choose from, literally something for everybody. Illinois' favorite dispensary locations in the city, Wrigleyville, River North, suburbs, Champaign, South Beloit. There is a Sunnyside near you. If you're a pro, they got you covered. And if you're a newbie, they'll help you find your way. Try their Cresco, try the Floracal. Sunnyside, you go into the store, they will guide you to where you need to be. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Use that promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day. Only for 21 and older or Illinois medical card holders.
That's right. Want to give a shout out to our guys over at CHSN. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up here on Saturday for the Derrick Rose, festivities that are currently going on here in Chicago. There's a pop-up store on State Street where the line is going all the way through the city for people to get a rose handed to them by one Derrick Rose. So shout out to CHSN. We're sponsored by the Chicago Sports Network, the new home of the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox games. CHSN will broadcast more than 300 live games per year across the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox, and will feature a full lineup of original Chicago-focused sports content. They're also Chicago-based, Chicago-built, and Chicago to the core, and they're bringing it to every corner of Chicago across our great 77 neighborhoods and beyond. At CHSN, Chicago comes first. Visit chsn.com for more info on how to watch the Bulls, Blackhawks, and White Sox games all season long.
All right, so shout out to Patrick Norton and shout out to Adam Hoge, who were working out at Halas Hall yesterday. Also to you, buddy, Mr. You had a tough day out at Wrigley.
Oh yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's not easy.
Yeah, you drinking beer and hanging with Cody and doing a vlog.
I destroyed Cody in the beer bat chug. If you look at the VOD, I mean, this is an experienced vet, and he got smoke showed in the bleachers. They had the hockey stick beer bats for the Winter Classic. But yes, we've all been working hard through the holidays. Steven was doing a great job producing.
Who paid for that $75 round of 2 beers?
Come on now.
That was you?
Yeah, of course.
$75 for 2 beers. I don't know about that, Tony Gill. I don't know about that. That's a lot for 2 beers.
But to your point, Adam Hoge was at Halas Hall yesterday and had a phenomenal interview.
Yeah, so Hoge's gonna join us after this from Halas as we get you set for the Thursday Halas experience. But so this was yesterday. Kevin Byard came over here for the leadership and to try to make a difference. Obviously, that the impact has not been enormous considering where the Bears are at. But certainly a guy who has been professional all year long. So this is the Byard with Hoge yesterday.
I actually want to ask you about Mike Vrabel. You were there for basically the entire time.
Right.
As head coach, except for the last half of last season.
Yeah.
How would you explain what it was like playing for Vrabel?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of my all-time favorite coaches. Probably the smartest football mind that I've ever been around. One of the few coaches I ever been around that was involved in everything. Offense, defense, special teams. He can coach every position on the field. Even if he obviously never played quarterback, you know what I mean? But he learned enough about the position to be able to feel like he can coach everybody. And, it was just his want-to win. Obviously, he had done it as a player at a high level for a very long time, so it's very easy to kind of buy into the things that he was coaching and teaching and preaching and stuff like that. But like I said, he would get out there on the field and do drills with the defensive linemen, like put the pad on and stuff like that. So it was easy to respect him and what he was trying to accomplish there.
How about like in terms of, he seemed to have a reputation for really holding guys accountable, everything sort of being in order. Is that accurate? Like, is that how you explain it? How things were down there?
He definitely. He had some guidelines, even, talking to the media and stuff like that. It's just the way that he wanted things to be run. And he definitely, like you said, he had his ways to make sure that, things were being run the right way. And, like I said, I really enjoyed being coached by him, one of my all-time favorite coaches. Like I said, just for the football mind part of it, but just, did the relationship part too. He developed a relationship with all his players. And he always had like a golden rule, like he's going to treat you the way you treat the team. If you care about the team enough, you practice hard, you work hard, you show up on time and everything, then, obviously you probably would have a great relationship with him. And, if you didn't, it would probably be the total opposite, you probably talk to a guy that maybe fit into that category that tell you they didn't like Vrabel at all, you know what I mean? But like I said, he just really wanted to win. And, I definitely think he ran things the right way.
Were you surprised when they moved on last year?
Surprised. Nothing in this league really surprises me. And I wasn't necessarily shocked on that. I just understood the situation. He kind of always talked about it's a production-based business, you know what I mean? Like, as great as a coach, great as a leader as he was, obviously, the end of 2022, we had lost 7 straight games. We didn't start off 2023 right, and obviously that year finished pretty bad for them. Obviously, I was in Philly, but that's kind of how this business is, you know what I mean? And he wasn't immune, and he definitely used to tell us as a team, just like, everybody gets, held to the same standard, and I think that he would kind of speak on that. But I wouldn't say I would be surprised, but obviously, did I think it was the right decision? No, but at the end of the day, it's kind of how this business goes.
So if Ryan Poles or Kevin Warren came to you and asked you about Mike Vrabel potentially being the Bears head coach, what would you tell them?
I would give them my opinions about the guys, depending on the questions they ask me. It's obviously going to be their decision and stuff like that. But yeah, I would tell them that I really enjoyed my time being coached by him. I think he's an excellent coach. He's a great coach. Yeah, like I said, I don't want to be playing like GM or pitching to the team, but like I said, I think Vrabel is going to be a great coach, and he's going to be a head coach this year. That if he's here or somewhere else, he's going to be a head coach, so he'll be a hot candidate for sure.
My last one for you is, there's always this debate about an offensive head coach paired with the quarterback. You obviously played for Vrabel for a long time. He wasn't necessarily that guy. Do you have a strong opinion on that either way?
I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on it. Every situation I think is very unique, depending on your locker room, your culture. I think in Tennessee, I've always had a veteran quarterback. Like I said, we traded for Ryan Tannehill in 2019. We had Marcus Mariota who was there. So having a veteran guy, I think is a little bit different. Maybe this scenario, obviously, with Caleb, going into his second year, I think it's very important for the organization to develop him. You know what I'm saying? I think he needs a coach that's going to help develop him. So, but I'm also within the understanding that, let's say, for example, we hire offensive-minded coach. I think that's all good and all great, obviously, with scheme and everything. But, if you can't execute that scheme, is he going to look like a guru or a genius? Or, I think it's a lot of different pieces when you look at building a team and how a team is built. That an offensive coach can shine. Same thing for a defense. There's a lot of brilliant, smart defensive coaches in this league. But if you don't go out and execute his scheme, is he going to be a high candidate? I kind of look at the example of Aaron Glenn. His first couple years in Detroit, they weren't that great. But now, obviously, they're out here playing and balling, and obviously he's getting a look as a head coach. So I think things are very cyclical. And I think as players and as a team, we make the coaches' resumes. You know what I mean? Like, players are the ink that write these coaches' resumes. So us as players, we have to make sure that we're out there executing what these coaches are trying to get done. And eventually everybody gets promoted when you win. I think that's really what it comes down to. Everybody wants winners in their organization, from coaches to players as well. So we haven't done a good job of that this year. So obviously with that comes coaches get fired, head coaches get fired, and stuff like that. I think, he's speaking on Matt. I think Matt is a brilliant defensive-minded coach. I think he's a brilliant coach, but it's a production-based lead, and when you don't win, usually that doesn't lead to good things.
Just one more quick one. With Vrabel, you said he was kind of coaching all over. Like, he could coach offense, defense, special teams. How involved was he with the quarterback?
I think he was – I wouldn't say he was very involved, but, in our team meetings, the way our team meetings was kind of ran, we watched a whole lot of film. Right, if it was that days of practice, games and stuff like that, and like I said, he would literally coach every single position, from the O-line to the tight ends, to the quarterbacks, to the receivers, and how he wanted his receivers to be able to block before they caught the ball. And one thing that I really appreciated from him, that he held everybody to a very high standard, and it didn't really matter who you were, right? If you was a rookie, first-year player, young player, or the starting quarterback Ryan Tannehill, he was going to coach you hard. And I think it kind of kept everybody not necessarily on edge, but understanding that, hey, I got to make sure I'm out here putting good stuff on film and I'm doing what I'm being coached to do, because I will get called out in front of the entire team, which is not a comfortable thing to do. But, you got to be able to, as a team, when you're in these type of situations, to be able to understand that, hey, I'm being held to the same standard as the next guy. And I have to make sure, even if I'm a backup, I'm preparing as a starter, because if I get into the game, regardless if I play that much this year and I don't go out there and uphold that standard, I'm going to get called out on it. So it kind of just a natural way of, people being able to, hold themselves to a high standard and not just pretty much kind of just clocking in, clocking out type deal.
Kevin, man, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no.
Enough with the clocking in, clocking out. That's really good stuff there, Hoge, with Kevin Byard yesterday.
Yes, it was.
As we bring Adam in right now from Halas Hall. A lot to like there, and great job there, Sir Hoger. Good work with Byard, who's been a first-class guy here, and we were just, before we played the interview, just talking, like, obviously hasn't had a huge impact on wins, but it's been one of the credits to that locker room this year. What was your biggest takeaway after sitting down with him for, whatever that was, 5 minutes or so?
Yeah, no, I think it's obvious how much Byard endorses Mike Vrabel as a coaching candidate. That could sometimes be an awkward type of conversation before the season's not over. Certainly that conversation wouldn't have happened if Matt Eberflus was still the head coach, right? Like, even if it was, the writing was on the wall. So it was good to hear him open up about that. And, I think one of my favorite parts of that interview was so he's praising them and he's saying all these things, right? But you could tell it was genuine, especially when he gets into the part where he's like, and you could probably find guys that didn't like Mike Vrabel, because it seems like if you're a player who followed Vrabel's style, right, like that bought in, worked hard, accountable, all those things, a lot of things the Bears are lacking right now here at Halas Hall, then you'd be in with Vrabel. You'd be tight with him, have all that respect. And then if you weren't one of those guys, he probably got rid of you real fast and rode you really hard, and that was it. And so I appreciated that from Kevin Byard being like, yeah, there's probably a lot of guys out there that say they don't like Mike Vrabel, but
one of them I think one of them was on the Bears team this year, Nate Davis.
Yeah. The more we learn about that situation, he certainly didn't seem like a Vrabel guy. So I like that, though, in a coach. Like, that's really how it should be, especially at this level, too. I mean, honestly, at any level, but especially at this level where, it is professional. It's a job.
One of the snippets from there that I appreciated the most was the golden rule is that he treats you the way you treat the team, not the way you treat the coach or your fellow man, the team,
right?
Which is,
or your status as a player,
right? Like, hey man, how much effort are you giving each day to be your best for everybody in here? What's the attitude that you're walking in with? All those things, and as you just underlined for the 100th time that the people are talking about right now, you got Bears players begging for discipline. So if I'm Ryan Poles and I'm looking at all of this, and if I'm Kevin Warren, I'm looking at this, I know there's different people that could have different thoughts about who they're going to hire. I mean, that interview, and I'm sure they're having their own, I would think that they would do their own due diligence and talk to Kevin Byard about him. That would be very appealing to me.
Yeah, and just so Greg knows, I have not seen Vrabel walk around the building pointing fingers at people and getting things in line.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, I still think it was a good idea. I see some comments about, who he would hire as OC, and I think that's a very fair point. I think, this whole thing is not dissimilar from, looking at 4 or 5 of the top quarterbacks in a draft class, right? There's no exact science. Your process matters, though. I think there are things you can do to limit or increase your chances of finding a successful head coach, which is a lot of what this project I've been working is about. But, a lot of it's just like pick your flavor too, right? Like I think there's probably at least 3 candidates that I'm really high on. But Ben Johnson's very different from Mike Vrabel. A lot of the things we know about Vrabel are the same things we don't know about Ben Johnson. And when it comes to who he would hire as an OC, because that's very important, I'd like to hear some of those things that Kevin Byard talked about where Vrabel can coach the entire team. It sounded like he's involved enough with the quarterback situation, but not too involved to the point like what we saw with Matt Eberflus. I know Carman mentioned this earlier in the show where he's like meeting with Caleb Williams every single week. We saw that in Hard Knocks. I think there's a balance there. Now, Vrabel did have Arthur Smith as his OC, who went on to get a head coaching job. Then they went out and got Matt LaFleur for a year, and then he got a head coaching job. So there's a track record there of successful offensive coaches coaching under Mike Vrabel. And, I think it's important to see what he did with Ryan Tannehill. I mean, resurrected the guy's career. They found success. Now, Caleb Williams would be certainly a much different project than Ryan Tannehill, but he certainly, I would say, has more talent too. So my level of concern offensively about going the Vrabel route isn't necessarily that high compared to maybe some of the other non-offensive coaches that would be available out there.
And Hoge, hang tight here. I know you got to jump in a little bit with Chris Beatty and Richard Hightower and Eric Washington talking today. I want to follow up on the Ben Johnson part of that conversation in a second. But first, shout out to our friends at Empire Today, the best place to get your new flooring. Empire Today is not going to be beaten on quality or service or speed, any of that, and they're not going to promise you the lowest prices because anybody that does that, they're putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. Empire is giving you the top quality stuff, and they're going to install it in a incredible way that's going to make you so happy with the fact that you chose Empire Today for your flooring. Shopping for floors, by the way, at a big box store can be frustrating. Empire prides themselves. They're going to come right to you for their convenient shop-at-home service. They're going to help you make your decisions where you want, what floors you want, how it's going to look right there in your home. You have to make the informed decision. It's first class. You'll love it. Do yourself a favor. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details.
That's right. Want to give a shout out to our guys over at Game Time. Used Game Time to get to the Winter Classic at Wrigley Field, and might have to hit them up if my Notre Dame Fighting Irish football makes the national championship. And obviously NFL playoff games coming up for everybody else in the NFL but us. So make sure you're hitting up Game Time when you are trying to get those tickets. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. It's pretty sweet when you go on their website and their app. You can see all these different seat locations, and the number is right above the seat. And the cool thing about Game Time is they show the price up front. They don't trick you where you click on it, show one price, 5 windows later, it's a different price. And then they have like these super deals, the hot deals, the best price, the lowest price. All that stuff is right up front as soon as you enter their app. It's a really, really good user-friendly app for everyone. Then, of course, once you click on the seat, you can get a panoramic view of the vantage point that you're getting. And then most importantly, with Game Time ticket coverage, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. And then, of course, their lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. What time is it?
It's game time.
Okay.
Thank you. I was listening back to our game times. I think we got to get better. I'm not exactly sure what the way to do it is.
You've got to get better.
I don't. I'm amazing. Fine. You're right. I need to get better. My new motto for 2025, consistency, and I want to be in it with everybody. I'm not above even
His
you.
New Year's resolution is consistency. Mine, Hoge, is no more hype. I'm not going to act like a jackass all off season. And what is your New Year's resolution, Hoge? Do you have one? Or are you perfect?
That is my resolution, to be perfect.
Okay.
All right, awkward start to this segment. I'll try to steer us back.
I don't have one yet. I don't. You know, I'm like I was waiting a couple days to tweet this out. I'm Larry David, where like 3 days after New Year's, it's like, stop saying Happy New Year's. You've reached the statute of limitations on that. We're 3 days in. It's a new year.
But what happens if you haven't remembered to tell somebody Happy New Year's? Can you still do it today?
I don't know. Tell them Happy Saturday, whatever day of the week it is. Like,
it's definitely Thursday.
I think we can still do it. I'm gonna put I think you have to do it by Sunday. Monday, we're in it. This is still the holiday season. All right. One thing that I liked from Kevin Byard, Hoge, that I think plays into perhaps how the Bears are looking at this, maybe. At least how the players, I think, are looking at it in that locker room a little bit. You can have a sweet scheme like Ben Johnson has in Detroit. But if you come over here and you don't have as good of players and the scheme don't work, well, now what? Because you were hired because you got this great scheme, but now the players can't execute your scheme. What are you left with at that point? Which is why you go back to the leader of men conversation, where you're not hiring Vrabel so much because he's got the sweet scheme and he's got this fancy offense and he's, got a great EPA, which you talked about yesterday. It's because this is a guy front of the room that you're more leaning into. It's just interesting to me to hear a player talk about a dude coming with a scheme and how maybe they'd be a little leery of that.
I just figured out my New Year's resolution. It's to get both of you guys to look at the correct camera when you're on solo shots. That's it right there. Thank you for helping
me. You can't use your resolution to resolve us. Resolve yourself.
I'm looking at you. You understand that? I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking at you. I'm not. Those cameras are not for. If I'm making a point right to the camera, then I'm talking to Skeeter, then there. But I'm talking to you, Hoge. So I'm looking at you. But go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for looking at me. Yeah, I mean that's where I feel like we've already getting to the point where we're talking in circles about Ben Johnson and that topic. It's 100% a concern. Totally understand it. That's why when I keep talking about Ben Johnson, I think it's important to look at offensive efficiency. I think it's a metric that indicates that he can kind of transcend who the personnel is on his roster. Is he going to have the number 2 offense in the league immediately next year with the Bears? If he comes over here, no way. But is it a good enough sign that he can drastically improve this Bears offense? I would say yes, even though he wouldn't have the same offensive line. And that's kind of the point. Looking at him in comparison, I was writing about Brian Dable a little bit earlier this morning as I work on part 2 of this project, which I hope will be out tomorrow. The one red flag with Brian Dable, even though he was an offensive guy, was that the offensive efficiency numbers actually weren't as high. And so to me, that's an indication of, oh, okay, so now you go to the Giants and you don't have Josh Allen anymore, you have Daniel Jones. Okay, it didn't quite transfer over. And again, it's not going to transfer over the same when you have superstars, right? But the point is, can you still take the Bears from where they are now to where they are, where they could be next year? And that's really what the point is. It's kind of silly to even suggest, like, any idea that Ben Johnson's going to have the same success in Chicago right away as he's having in Detroit. That's really stupid to even think that. It's just a matter of can he come in and improve things and how drastically. That's really what the question is.
Right.
4 minutes left with Hoge. Don't mess up your questions, Greg.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you.
I think it's actually 1 minute.
Yeah, it is 1 minute, and he's the one that added the Ben Johnson thing. So I'm going to ask you and stick to our rundown, Hoge. Vibes from Halas. I know we're going to talk about Jaylon Johnson getting in the Pro Bowl. I know you guys had a chance to talk to Jaylon yesterday, so anything you want to add before we let you loose?
Yeah, I mean, on the Jaylon thing, I wonder if we'll talk to him again today, since he did get into the Pro Bowl. But talking to him yesterday didn't seem like he was very confident that would happen. And he's obviously a confident guy. I mean, his answer was basically, "Yeah, I think I've done enough, but I'm not too optimistic." That's me paraphrasing. And a lot of that has to do with winning and losing, right? When you don't win as many games, you're not going to have as many Pro Bowlers, obviously. But yeah, even I was a little surprised to see him actually named a starter. I think it's well deserved, but usually when you're as bad as a team as the Bears have been this year, that doesn't really come with it. And then I also couldn't help but notice that Khalil Mack, Roquan Smith, Jalen Carter, all Pro Bowlers. Huh. Okay.
How about all the free agent D linemen that are Pro Bowlers too? That we paid a second round pick for the guy that's not a Pro Bowler. You can. How about
you okay over there?
How about the quarterback that's
no,
a Pro
we're not
Bowler?
okay, Greg.
How about the quarterback that's not a Pro Bowler?
Did Zach Allen get in the Pro Bowl too? Because that's another guy who's having an unbelievable season that we talked a lot about 2 off seasons ago, and was right there for the taking.
Well,
I know you got to.
And
go,
when we talk, like I said, when we talk about whether or not Ryan Poles should keep his job on Black Monday, all these teams, especially in the NFC North, you see how many Pro Bowlers each of those teams have, and we have one, and it's by somebody that Ryan Pace drafted in 2021, or whatever it's been now. So you've got how many years? Right, you've got how many years of Ryan Poles drafts, and you don't have one Pro Bowler this year to show for it. It's not a great sales pitch when you combine that with the potential of an 11-game losing streak and then selling to your fan base. Here comes a 4-year extension.
Hoge's got to go, but Ryan Poles was there in Kansas City when they drafted Creed Humphrey. He was there, man. Have a great rest of your afternoon out there, Hoge. Dominate.
All right, guys. I will. You guys do the same. Have a good rest of the show.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for everything.
Do you remember? Let's just go through the list of Pro Bowlers that you can sort of tie to the Bears. This is totally unfair, or at least a little bit unfair. But all right, can we just do this? You mind? You all right?
Sure.
AFC. Do you remember when Lamar Jackson was available and we would have a conversation? I said, would you trade Justin Fields for Lamar Jackson? No way. I'd never do that. We literally didn't want Lamar Jackson in this town. That is over there. Stephen Nicholas just pointed them. Don't want him. Dudes.
I was saying I did.
You
said
did?
No Trubisky, wait a year, get Lamar Jackson. They didn't listen.
He was available. Nobody wanted him. Okay. That just running backs in the AFC. Have you ever heard of Derrick Henry?
I've heard of Derrick Henry.
Was he a free agent last year? I'm just asking. Tight end. Brock Bowers. Was he drafted after Rome?
He was.
I think he was. Yeah, no, I'm pretty certain he was. Let's just keep on moving it through here. There it is. Khalil Mack, outside linebacker, Roquan Smith. Did both those guys play for the Bears? I think Hoge just mentioned that. Yeah. No, they did. Okay. And then let's go NFC. Caleb, you're all good, but it's just kind of fun that we didn't even do a deep dive on Jaden Daniels. Didn't really want to bring him in for a full interview. Just, Pro Bowl his first year. I don't know. Maybe I would have just. I think I might have just talked to him. I don't know. Call me crazy.
But you're talking about
Saquon Barkley. Was he a free agent last year?
I believe the Bears did try to get him.
They tried.
Yep.
Okay.
I just think that's fine. You can point to the personnel. You can talk about these players that have done well elsewhere that the Bears had or could have had.
Jalen Carter.
But then you want to talk about those players, and if they were on the Bears, would they be having the same success?
Bad argument.
It's not a bad argument.
Bad argument.
It's not a bad argument. This team and this season has been about coaching and the failure of identifying good coaching. We just spent the first 30 minutes talking about bringing in a coach because that's what this team currently needs.
See, this is where I lose my mind with the conversation, because I'll listen to people here say, like I've heard for years, that, oh, no, Mitch Trubisky, if he was coached right, he would have been great. No, he stinks, all right? He's going to stink elsewhere, and it's not just there's a blend to this. Some of these guys...
Right, there is a middle ground. Patrick Mahomes would be a great quarterback wherever he plays, but he also would not be the Patrick Mahomes we currently know if he had been on the Bears the last 5 years. Is that correct or not?
Sure. What percentage of Patrick Mahomes would he be with the Bears? 85%, or would he be he'd be 10%? See, Bears fans like to think that it'd be 10%. And it's just not true.
Well, I mean, I think Caleb Williams this year is showing what a great quarterback would be on a bad coach team, right?
No,
at least in his rookie year.
No,
I understand Caleb Williams isn't Patrick Mahomes, but I'm just telling you that that's the example.
See, this is the difference to me. So you're giving Caleb too much of a break there, and you're declining what other people are doing over there because
right. But you're also underselling the importance of coaching.
I'm not underselling.
And all great players that the Bears missed on would have been great on the Bears.
I'm not underselling it. I understand that it's a part of the equation, but we do this black and white thing here. We're like, oh well, if he came here, he would never be that. Dude. If Patrick Mahomes was a Bear,
Sam Mustipher was terrible center. He's on the Chargers right now, playing fine as an offensive lineman for Jim Harbaugh.
Hold on. Khalil Mack was a really good player here. He went elsewhere. He's a really good player there. Roquan Smith was a really good player here. He went elsewhere. He's a really good player there. Mitchell Trubisky sucked here. He left here. He sucked there. A lot of times, you are what you are. Now, if you want to take a guy, say, defensive lineman now with the Niners, been around the league, did absolutely nothing here. We didn't know how to use him because
Leonard Floyd.
You want to take a guy like that and say that – I'm not saying that it doesn't happen where other guys are going to flourish elsewhere. It's not a foolproof thing.
If Jaden Daniels was here and Caleb Williams was on Washington, the roles would be reversed. And Bears fans would be completely livid that they traded back to 2 and drafted the wrong guy. Yes.
No, see, but okay, here's my thing with Jaden and Caleb. I think Caleb can absolutely turn out to be the better quarterback for a number of reasons. One, just pure talent. 2, that he's thicker and it's less likely to get injured, although injuries do happen to quarterbacks regardless. But also, when you look at the two of them, why is Jaden more successful early going? Well, he went through 8 zillion offenses in college. Caleb's been through 1. That's a huge difference coming into he was more.
He's also older.
Right, exactly. He was more equipped to start out, so that's just part of it. I'm not saying that long term they got it wrong, but if you look at who was more if you were going to make a bet who was going to be more successful year 1, you would have been an idiot to bet Caleb, not only considering the fact that Jaden was older, Jaden had been in more offenses, Jaden was going to but also to your point, the coaching side of it. Jaden's going to be coached by Cliff Kingsbury. Jaden's going to be the head coach is Dan Quinn. You're betting on Matt Eberflus and Shane Walter.
Line.
Right. Right. So I mean all of those things.
Right.
But there's also his experience and his talent was more
I'm not
ready to be
selling those things short. But when you're talking about an offensive coordinator that doesn't have scripted plays, doesn't understand how to use his personnel, those things matter. Those things matter in development of a quarterback and asking what they do at the line of scrimmage. That's what we talked about to start this show, that to start the year, Shane Waldron's got him making all the calls and all the checks, and now he's been sacked 67 times. Whereas Thomas Brown is now saying, you're not changing the play at the line of scrimmage. Jaden Daniels, they're giving him the call, and he's running it. A lot of it is first read, completions that are open receivers. Well, good for them. It's working. They should keep doing that.
Yeah.
Well, Jaden Daniels also has a center that calls his own protections. He doesn't have to worry about any of that stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
Tyler Biadasz, he does it for him.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just, hey, where's your receiver at? Throw the ball.
I have zero doubt that Jaden Daniels would not be doing what he's doing if he was here in Chicago. Zero.
Okay. Listen, I think we can all agree on one thing. Can we agree on this? I'm going to go real basic. It's not a good thing that the Bears have one Pro Bowl player.
Of course.
Okay.
It's a huge indictment
All
on
right.
Ryan Poles.
All right. Thank you.
And
That's
the coaching staff, who Ryan Poles is responsible for.
Yes, it's on both. But if you had to pick right now, by the way, who hired the coaching staff? But if you had to pick right now, what was the bigger problem? The way this team was coached or the actual players and who's on the team? If I'm Kevin Warren, there's no way that I'm sitting there saying, you know what, it was 80% coaching. This guy's got great players here. No way I'm saying that.
Look, it is about developing talent, though. Because when you look at a guy like Tyreek Stevenson, I was in his spaces yesterday talking with the guy, and I thought he made a really good point where he said, look at Tyreek Stevenson and Jameson Williams in Detroit and how they had this little rivalry going where they're barking at each other and they both get, penalties. I
did a social media video on
that. You did a great one. It was amazing, right?
Thank you very much.
And Dan Campbell's holding James. Look at Jameson Williams over the last 3 years. He's gotten suspended. He's done a lot of things off the field. He keeps, he's doing things where he's getting penalties.
Right.
Well, now he's like one of the best players on the Lions and one of the better threats in the league.
Which is why the Bears shouldn't give up on Tyreek. Not only the fact just because that secondary, when you look at it as to, yes, it's solid, but you don't know what you have with Jaquan. I guess you're gonna have to.
But that's my point. Is a guy like Tyreek Stevenson on the Lions? How do you think he'd be progressing to this point?
Agreed. Super talented player, needs to be coached harder. I'm not in that particular corner of the world. Yes, but if you were going to be,
because you're just saying all these players suck. Like we're picking the wrong players.
Yes,
but to me,
correct.
Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, Jervon Dexter, like on different teams where the coaches develop talent, would be playing better. I'm not saying that they're going to be the best players in the league, but we're never going to find out in this city if we can't get good coaches that develop talent.
Greg, let me ask you a question. What did you say at the time when they passed on Carter? Weren't you the only one on the show that had it right?
Correct.
Okay.
But whatever. They needed an offensive lineman too, so I understood the logic. I didn't agree with it. Okay. I would have drafted Jalen Carter for sure.
Okay, let's talk about that part of it. Okay, what would Darnell Wright? 1 out of 10. What do you give him?
How he's playing?
Yeah, just overall. 7,
yeah,
8,
7, 8,
7, 8. Yeah, okay. I think everybody would agree with that. 7, 8.
I think he's playing very well, but the offensive line and the offense itself is so bad. It's hard to get excited about anything the offense is doing.
Right, but. My point in bringing up Wright versus Carter, and you need to have a coaching staff that can handle dudes who are a little bit off the beaten path or a lot off the beaten path if they're that talented. That's part of having a great organization. You look at the Bears' offensive line room, they're screaming for somebody to come in there and be a leader. They don't have it. They haven't had it.
Right.
And you drafted a guy in Darnell Wright who's absolutely not that. Quiet dude, hanging out,
Well, they drafted Darnell Wright because they need good offensive linemen. Like, I mean, yes, you need somebody to become a leader.
My point is this: in the overall assessment of who's coming in that locker room,
you think Jalen Carter's a leader for the Eagles or just a very good player?
No, I think he's an insanely good player who's going to
and Darnell Wright's a good player, but he's not a leader.
When you're that talented. Jalen Carter is a much better player than Darnell Wright. There's no comparison.
I mean,
the guy's
okay. That's fine. I'm not gonna I just think it's just kind of like it's like a nonsensical debate. Like they play two completely different positions. I understand. I understand Jalen Carter.
They're both on the interior trying to be nasty and have impact.
I understand Jalen Carter's a monster. I understand he gets triple teamed, but Darnell Wright's playing very good. And I'm the one that wanted Jalen Carter, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. We need offensive linemen. We literally need 4 of the 5 spots replaced, and he's the only one we're not replacing.
How's this? I'll just wrap it like this. As I sit here, and maybe I'm going too far here, but as I sit here on January the 2nd, leaning into a beautiful 2025, and I look and the Pro Bowlers get announced today, and I look at that list, and I see how many guys you could tie to the Bears that are not Bears or could have been Bears, who were once Bears, and we have one Bear that's a Pro Bowler. I get annoyed. I find it irritating.
Okay, but none of these players on this team deserve to make the Pro Bowl. They
I know.
suck. They've lost 10 in a row.
Know. That's what I'm saying.
But like at the same time, like I still think this was a winnable roster, even with their flaws, and even if they don't have 10 blue chip players. I'll continue to say it. This is a coaching problem here in this city that has now turned into a culture problem because the coaching let the culture crumble, and they let a Hail Mary completely destroy them. How many games have they been in where they coulda, shoulda, woulda won at the end? It's, to me, all rosters have flaws. Look at the Lions. They give up 40 points, but their offense is scoring 45 points. I don't expect the roster to be perfect, but you have no chance if your coaching is what it has been this year with Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron. 100%. I'm not as doom and gloom of this roster. They obviously need upgrades on both the offensive and defensive line, but I'm not as gloom and doom as this roster as you are.
Well, the only reason why I'm doom and gloom on the roster, and it's not even doom and gloom. The only reason why I'm highly skeptical.
Again, we talked about it earlier. How many wins would the Bears have if Jim Harbaugh was the coach? I know we beat this horse to a bloody pulp, but how many wins would they have?
It would depend.
No. How many? I
don't know. I can't answer that question.
No. You're not gonna make me answer a bunch of hypothetical, nonsensical questions and then not answer mine.
I'm on the island. I think they would have 8 wins with Harbaugh.
Going for 9 on Sunday.
Sure, why not?
So then it isn't a roster problem. No, but it's a coaching problem.
Well, the reason why I say that, first of all, you just went to the best coach that they could have hired because he.
Yeah, forgive me for expecting them to hire the best coaches.
But the reason why I agree with you on that is because I do think that Jim would have gotten Caleb as far down the road this year as he possibly could have been. So I think Caleb could have masked a lot of things on the roster with that level of coach. Is how
right. That's what I expect them to do when they hire this next head coach.
That will have to be the case if they're going to get there because look, this is not rocket science. You have to be able to get to the quarterback to win football games. Mm-hmm. All right, to have a decent defense. They don't get to the quarterback. Montez Sweat was supposed to be that guy. Dude's got 5.5 sacks. Ain't close to good enough. All right. So
and the Sweat thing is disappointing. And then are we ever going to know, has he been playing hurt all year or not? It's an excuse, but if it's a valid one because he was, so be it. But if you get somebody opposite of Montez Sweat, like an Abdul Carter, then now that makes Montez Sweat a multiplier where, they're feeding off of each other because they can't slide the protection.
Right. I would just hope when they go into this offseason, they have a very sobered look at the roster and not so much.
It's a big indictment that you go from one of the best defenses in football to losing Andrew Billings and being one of the worst defenses in football. Andrew Billings is a great player, and I've been a huge advocate for him for 2 years, but he can't be the linchpin from being great to the worst.
It's offensive.
Yeah.
We lost Andrew Billings. Oh, no. Oh, that's right. I mean, come on, man.
I mean, credit to Andrew, but that's an indictment on the Bears.
Apparently, Andrew Billings is a $20 million a year player. We should be paying Andrew Billings. Andrew Billings is better than Jaylon Carter. I just keep hearing, and maybe it's just because he's on, it's a pregame show on the Bears radio network or whatever, but I just keep on hearing Poles say week in and week out, he's just so proud of the roster for how it's held together and da-da-da. I'm like, oh, my God, dude. Enough with how, first of all, it hasn't held together. You lost 10 games in a row. Second of all, please don't be so attached to your guys. You cannot, you have.
But that's why for me, okay, if you want to swing for the fences for Ben Johnson, I understand why. And if they hire him, not going to hate on the pick. I'll be optimistic and hopeful for the future. But when you look at a guy like Mike Vrabel and you hear what Kevin Byard said of how he is as a coach in the locker room, and I saw a guy here in our chat, I think his name is A Little Wasted, and he asked, like, why is Mike Vrabel the only one that gets this leader of men moniker? Why can't Ben Johnson be someone that is a leader of men? We just don't know is the answer. And when you have, physical proof with Kevin Byard saying how Mike Vrabel is, to your point about don't be in love with every player on this roster, I can trust that Mike Vrabel will come in here, and if he sees there's certain people that need to be weeded out to get this culture right, I know he's going to say those things because he's not afraid of anyone in this locker room. He shared a locker room with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and Rob Gronkowski and some of the biggest personalities to ever come into the NFL, where they all held each other in check. And that's the operation that he lives by, and that's the kind of operation I want my team to live by. Now, can Ben Johnson be that type of coach? Certainly hope so, especially if the Bears hire him. But that is part of the specific requirement this next head coach can have. You can have all the plays in your play sheet in the world, but if they don't have a culture and attention to detail and a discipline and work ethic that has been completely lacking on this team, none of it's going to matter trying to call plays that they can't execute.
Well, and they should be. It should be ringing all over Halas Hall that literally from every corner of that locker room, from the quarterback to the cornerback to everyone seemingly in between, they are asking for more leadership, which is unbelievable to me, by the way, that someone in that locker room hasn't.
I'll credit them for acknowledging that that's what they need. It's also an indictment on them that they're admitting that they need it.
Correct. But it underlines part of the Ryan Poles equation of understanding what is needed in the locker room player-wise from a leadership standpoint, which is why, as we started the show today, I enjoyed that Caleb put himself, and I got to get rid of the ball better rather than going at the offensive line. I would hope that after a year being here and after experiencing everything he's experienced next year and then going into the offseason and doing whatever work he's going to do, which I'm expecting would be a lot of work, he can walk in next year, OTAs, into training camp and be on a different level as far as leading at least the offensive side of the team.
Yep.
It's a ton to ask him to come in and do that as a rookie, even as a number one pick. But now he's been here. Now he's done that. He's seen 3 coaches come in and get bonged out the door, from Flus to Waldron to, I'm assuming that Thomas Jones is not going to be back here. So he's certainly going to have a third head coach. You've earned your right to be able to you don't have to be the front guy in the room, but they need somebody to go up and do it.
Yep.
And he's gonna have to play better to do it, all that type of stuff too, and understand the offense on a whole nother level. But look, you've talked to anybody in the league. Patrick Mahomes sat his first year. It's a lot to do.
Right.
And it was too much. No one's going to put it out quite like that, or he's not going to say it was too much for him to play year one. Obviously, he needed to play because that's what goes on in the NFL. He's the number one.
Again, that's where it comes down to coaching.
But now he's done it. He's experienced it. Year 2 should look a whole lot different on a lot of levels.
As long as the coaching is right.
Well, they better get it right.
As long as the coaching is right. I mean, and they have an understanding of where he's at and the proper amount of responsibility to give him at the line of scrimmage. And understanding who your personnel is around him. Obviously, they're going to put a lot of money and invest draft picks and all that stuff into the offensive line. That unit's also going to need time to come together. So, that's why it is incumbent on a coach that understands his personnel and understand where his quarterback is from a mental standpoint. Is 67 sacks, like you said, he's going to be in the 70s after Sunday. And you had a offensive coordinator to start the year.
We're going to send you up there with a sign. Don't get the 70.
You have an offensive coordinator that A, was giving him full reign at the line of scrimmage. B, didn't have 15 scripted plays. C, didn't understand how to use his personnel between his running backs and his tight ends. He's got DJ Moore not using him the correct way to get the most out of what he's best at. So, That to me is why I think, a good coach and somebody that understands those things is going to get way more out of the roster we currently have. But, now next year you can still upgrade that roster and still hold to those same philosophies.
Yeah. It's great to be with you today.
We got fired up here in the second half.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I just saw YouTube, my guy saying that once he was down for Brown, now can't remember his name. Hey, I was optimistic about Thomas Brown. And I'd still be optimistic about Thomas Brown on some level. But this is, again, my entire point on some level. Thomas Brown has done everything he possibly can. Listen to the guy talk every week. Thomas Brown doesn't sound like he's lost his mind. He's been solid. This guy is an actual leader. They're not listening to him. It's on the guys in that locker room. Who put those guys in the locker room? And I keep on hearing the same stuff that this locker room is just, they stay, like last year they stayed together, got to 7 wins. I really loved the way the guys keep on battling. You guys ain't battling. You guys gave up.
Correct.
All right. And
that's why the other half of this is you can point to Andrew Billings being this benchmark moment where the defense went from really good to really bad, but really, and it sounds crazy that a Hail Mary just completely made this team let go of the rope, but that's exactly what happened. And
you showed up next week, you lost 29-9 to the Cardinals. It was embarrassing. You lost at home to the Patriots 19-3.
And during all that, you're airing out all this stuff publicly, and then Thomas Brown becomes the interim head coach, 6 weeks later or whatever, and his first message to the team was family business is family business. And so you heard with Mike Vrabel with his Adam Hoge's interview in the locker room, Kevin Byard said that Mike Vrabel had a certain criteria of how players spoke to the media. And so, because that's culture. When you're talking about things that are behind closed doors, that speaks to the lack of culture and the lack of respect you have for the people within that locker room. That's a breach of trust that the players at one point just said, I don't really care anymore. I'm going to look out for myself. That's not good. So, you can have all the players in the world. You can have all the great plays and play sheet, but none of it matters if you don't have a team that sticks together and has a healthy culture.
Yeah, well,
that's why in Detroit, everybody gives Ben Johnson for all the credit of the offense. But Dan Campbell is just as much a part of the reason they are so successful offensively, because he makes the team hold themselves accountable. They execute to perfection. They stay disciplined. They stick to the details. They are a connected unit. That's not just a Ben Johnson thing offensively. That's a Dan Campbell thing. So Ben Johnson coming here with all his plays, you also have to have that culture that has been created in Detroit.
I mean, right now I'm back in 1982. Ditka comes into that locker room. It's like, guys, we're going to the Super Bowl in 3 years. 50% of you, though, are not going to be here. I mean, and it turned heads. You need something of that right now with them, which to my own, throw myself under the bus. I didn't see the locker room crumbling to this point, but it has crumbled to this point, and they better be well aware of it. When the Bears, this iteration gets good, it ain't going to be because 90% of that locker room is just being coached better. There will be a lot of different faces in there. It's not just that whole thing needs a reshaping. Some of the laundry needs to get taken out and not returned. That is a fact. I don't know. I'm not calling out names. I have some ideas. I'm not going to do that. But I hope the general manager, if he gets to keep his job, is aware of that and is not still in love with everybody in that locker room and the culture of that locker room, because your locker room right now sucks.
I agree.
All right, Gregory.
Mm-hmm. Super chats.
Oh yeah.
What do you mean? Oh yeah.
I forgot.
3 years. We finish every show with super chats. How do you forget that?
When it gets this heated, I want to.
What do you want to do?
I just get out of my calm lane.
Huh?
I want to.
What you gonna do?
I'm not mad at you. I'm not. I'm more irritated just at the whole conversation, I guess. But it's lovely. I had a great time today. Crystal, you're the greatest, and she 1,000,000,000% agrees with you today.
That's right.
So
she's smart, and I'm gonna take her to a Purdue game at Mackey sometime this year.
She's not going to Indiana. Happy New Year to everyone here, diehards and the CHGO crew. Ready to spend the new year with each of you. Love you guys. Bear down and F Green Bay.
Thank you for the Happy New Year.
Love
that's
you.
sent to just me and Carm because Hoge doesn't believe in being told Happy New Year.
Crystal, Happy New Year. You're the greatest. We appreciate you. You know this. Chubbs82 with a big $20 coming in here.
Let's go, Chubbs.
I'm sick of players saying they need another man to come in there like they are children, like they need to fire a lot of these guys. If they need that, this isn't high school. This is a job. You get fired. Fire polls too. Well, so me and Chubbs apparently are dancing down the same street today. $2 from Papa Hoge. Love you, Papa Hoge. White Sox win percentage 253. Bears 235.
Okay.
Papa Hoge spent $2 to let us know that the Bears have a worse win percentage than the White Sox.
He did add, assuming the Bears lose.
Assuming the Bears lose,
week
right?
18.
I will push Papa Hoge in Lake Michigan if he ever sends that again.
That was a assault on one of our on our leader's dad. Just for the record.
Well, that was assault with words. So that's called self-defense.
I mean, he's just spitting facts. You got to, living where we are, my brother. Joseph Holoman, $10. Happy 2025, Jets. I agree that we've lost any legitimacy to say Green Bay sucks because the Packers are such a lopsidedly better run organization. I feel sick for saying that. Swap Green Bay sucked with McCaskey sucks. Well, they have been doing that.
Yeah, they've been doing the sell the team chance here of recent.
$5 from Joe Calcagno. I'm sick of the discipline conversation. They're saying we made it to the NFL, but we can't succeed unless we get yelled at. See, this is the thing, though, Joe. They're 22. They're 25. They're making millions of dollars. People need accountability. It's just the way it is. We all need it. Even the great Gregory P. Allen Braggs. If you let him run loose, I mean, who knows what he'll be doing? He might drink 12 Dr. Pepper Zeros a day instead of 10.
Right. I mean, I agree to an extent. It is an indictment on the individuals because you should hold yourself accountable and want to hold each other accountable as the players. But your leadership also has to have a strong influence. And when it doesn't, the players that work hard start to feel resentment because the players that aren't working hard aren't being held accountable. So, that is what culture in a football or any sports locker room, but especially in a football locker room, is needed. That's what they have had their entire lives. And that is when you're a winning program at the high school level or college or even the NFL, that those principles still hold regardless of the fact of how much money they make or whether or not they're defined as professionals. It's still sports, and that's how you rally each other around and play for each other. It can't just be a business. This is sports, so you have to come together in a different way than you do if you're in a freaking office, with an accounting firm. It's just a different vibe.
Yeah. Look, leadership's needed. Even for some of the most accomplished people in society, period, including professional athletes who are young and in their 20s, have a zillion distractions and a million things going on, and everybody's got different wants and trying to get paid and more money and endorsements and all of it. You need leadership.
Mike Crum, I will not take accountant slander, Braggs. I'm not slandering. I'm just saying the culture is different.
Thank you, Mike. You do a great job, by the way. I love your energy every day. Chubbs82, $2. Stop adding an S to Happy New Year. Okay, you got it, Chubbs.
No, I won't.
I never argue with Chubbs. Chubbs is the man. Farming Bear, $20. Love you, Farming Bear. Not enough has been said that these players quit after the Washington game. Not going to make any Pro Bowls with what they put on the field. Also, Carmen, you can't act like all these free agents want to sign here. Okay, fair point, Farmy Bear. Maybe they wouldn't have come. Although if you offer the most money, they want to come. Not $10 from Crystal. Agreed, Braggs. Because somehow when our players leave, they improve at their new team. It's coaching which falls on polls. All these players are not that bad. We also have lots of players that leave here, Crystal, that go other places and they stink. See Eddie Jackson.
Well, I know
see
you're
Cody
gonna
Whitehair. See Mitch Trubisky.
I know you're going to point to Mitch, and that's
You're gonna
I
tell
know
me he's playing well.
He's
gonna
He's
get run this weekend.
The chat all fired up with Fields talk, but I think Fields is a good example of somebody that went to a good organization.
It's the exact same thing there that he was here.
He had 10 touchdowns and 1 pick, and they were what, 4-2?
4-2.
4-2, 10. How did they start last year? 0-4, right?
Yeah.
They're 4-2. He had 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. Even with his limitations as a quarterback, a good organization with a good coaching staff understood how to get the most out of him.
Yeah, and they also
obviously they benched him for who they felt was the better option, but had they not had the better option and they had to keep him as is, they would have continued to get more out of him than the Bears ever would because their coaches don't understand how to use their personnel.
Yes, but Justin was...
That's it. Yes, that's it.
No.
That's it. I got him. Justin
put up good numbers here last year, dude. He was very... He just was...
Not 4-2, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. I understand it's a whole different team.
They have a better team. I think it wasn't like they unlocked some completely different play over there. They just...
Darnell Mooney, also terrible on the Bears. Good year at Atlanta.
Right, but he was once good here.
Uh-huh.
He had a 1,000-yard gamer, and then we just completely forgot how to use the guy.
Right, because we develop coaching.
Mooney's a good example of guys going elsewhere. All right, but we had it figured out, and then we didn't figure it out. And he did get hurt here too, by the way. We just forgot that he was a good player and let him go. And a lot of people didn't want Mooney around here.
Matt Nagy in the chat. Mooney was great under Matt Nagy.
Chubbs with a couple of more $5. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I agree with Carm. Carter is a game changer. Darnell is another guy. Thank you, Chubbs. There's a serious lack of talent on this team, and Carm is right. Thank you, Chubbs.
Appreciate you, Chubbs. All the super chats today. I mean,
you're
good dude. You're a good dude.
This roster's just so overflowing with talent. I can't
stop it.
Frank James, $10, overflowing with talent. The Ben Johnson thing, as good as he is just the same thing over literal insanity. Hot coordinators, unproven head coach, Nagy, Eberflus, Vrabel for the win. He's a little bit more of a hotter candidate. Matt Nagy had never really called plays.
No, he called plays for 3 games. This guy has called plays for 3 years. And not only has he called plays for 3 years, they've been a top 5 offense in football for the last 3 years.
We can't. Let's not do that. Let's not Matt
That's
Nagy.
what sports is the comparison for comparison's sake. But it doesn't. It's not a direct comparison.
Linear.
He just put his phone in his mouth, Steven.
I didn't lick my
He just put his phone in his mouth.
I'll check the tape. I missed it.
No, I did.
He just put his phone in his mouth.
I did.
What is wrong with
this?
It's a
bad job. It's a bad job. Right here. Wrong. I was wrong to do that.
Disgusting.
Try that one out.
You're a disgusting animal.
Try that one out.
You're a disgusting
Did he wipe it on his shirt afterwards to clear the screen? Or is that just you?
I was on the side.
Still
but
weird.
I wanted to, it's just...
Hey, there's a New Year's resolution. Stop licking your phones from 2025.
There you go. That's great.
Yeah.
I will never. That's, like I said, it's how I am immune to all diseases.
Weren't you just sick?
Let's hope that stays. We wish you great health in 2025, Gregory, despite all your habits. All right. Thank you so much for watching.
Let's go Irish.
Listening, commenting, thinking, agreeing, disagreeing. It's been a fun show.
We got a show tomorrow. We got a Football Friday show.
We're working tomorrow. Preview show. Hoge, myself, you too.
Gregory P. Allen Braggs.
Greg,
maybe
I was thinking about what the P stands for today.
What does the P stand for? Carm? Let's hear this little ditty. No Diddy.
No, let's not
Diddy.
do that. Let's
No Diddy.
not do that. I think it'd be better to get Chevy Wellington here for $50 rather than what I thought the P stood for today. Carm, $50 for Chevy Wellington. Carm, glad you're finally realizing how badly Pulse botched the rebuild. Shouldn't take 10 straight losses. Brags like most Bear fans, defends our players. Midwest kindness, but Pulse is forcing us to talk smack about the Darnell Wrights. Me and Chevy, man. And then here comes Pizzatola. Can't wait for a whole year of bad Carm takes. Hey, day in and day out, Pizzatola. Right here, buddy.
Raul says the P stands for precise. A little wasted says the P stands for peckerhead. Just stay here for the next 5 minutes and everyone in the chat guess what the P stands for. What could go wrong?
Yeah, we'll go with precision, just like Raul Martinez, because you're so
pompous.
Nah,
not pompous.
I think I was actually moving the P to different letters today as I was thinking about you, and then I did my best to stop thinking about you. So I'm going to stop thinking about you right now. We're back tomorrow at 1:00. Tell a friend about the CHGO Bears podcast. Thank you for all the support today. We appreciate you. Have a great rest of your afternoon or whatever time of day you're checking us out. Have a great rest of your day.
Pizza Puff. That's a good one.
We all silly like the mayor.